Good afternoon, everyone. It is great to be here in Las Vegas today. We left Washington earlier this morning, way early this morning, in almost the pre-dawn hours. It was about a little bit after 7 o'clock. Made our way out west, and enjoyed a fantastic day here in Nevada. And looking forward to talking to you this evening about um, the issues at hand that are facing our nation. And that's something that over the last two political events that have happened in this election cycle, um, the candidates have not talked about, and that's the issues. You know, we first had the Iowa caucuses. We had candidates go at each other and just slander one another. Then we had the New Hampshire primary, the same thing. On on a primary night, on an election night, the candidate should come out in front of his supporters and talk about their vision for the future. What I've heard in two events, the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primary, are just slandering one another. Tonight, or this afternoon, keep saying tonight, but this afternoon, I want to give to you my vision, my plans that I have for another 4 years. You know, in the last 3 years, our nation has faced trials that have tested our resilience. From a relentless grip on an unprecedented pandemic to the growing polarization, we have weathered storms that have challenged our unity. This afternoon, I stand before you not just as a leader, but as a fellow citizen, ready to outline a vision to restore America to the pinnacle of its former glory. In the past 3 years, we have achieved significant progress, witnessing a remarkable reduction in unemployment from a staggering 15.5%. Now, think about this. Almost 4 years ago, almost getting close to the point we were beginning to see the very early signs of the COVID pandemic coming to America. And at this point in our nation's history, our unemployment was still hovering around where it is right now. And almost overnight, it went to 15.5% unemployment. America was shut down. We were under lockdown. Millions of people lost their jobs. Now, fast forward to 4 years later, the pandemic is in our rearview mirror. We're still dealing with it, but not the way we were 4 years ago. And now the unemployment rate is at 3.5%. Under the banner of my administration, we are committed to overhauling the unemployment system in this country. No longer will it be a system susceptible to exploitation. A new enhanced unemployment system will mandate that a minimum of 5 job interviews per week be required for benefits, ensuring that every able bodied American is presented with ample opportunities for gainful employment. And when I speak about able bodied, let me be clear here this afternoon. I'm excluding our seniors and stay at home parents. I'm addressing those who, despite the waning of the pandemic, opted for unemployment and have never returned to the workforce. This status quo needs to change. And mark my words, under my leadership, it will. And you think about it, almost 4 years have passed. People have gone back to work. And we got to get out of this mindset of living off government benefits. I firmly believe that every able bodied American should work. That's my firm belief. And I want you to think about this too. There is no better satisfaction than getting a paycheck. Now, back when I first started working, it actually was a paycheck. Now it's more like a direct deposit. You receive a little ding on your phone and you get a deposit. But there's no better satisfaction in receiving that. I don't believe there should be satisfaction of receiving government benefits. Now it's there for a crutch. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's those benefits are there when you need them, but it shouldn't be there for a lifestyle. In addressing the exorbitant cost of prescription drugs, it's not just a policy point, but a moral imperative. It's just unjust for individuals to bear the burden of paying hundreds of dollars for medications while you have big pharma over here reaping in billions of dollars in profits. I have a dear friend of mine back in Texas in education. Educators, as you know, as you heard from me, do not make a whole lot of money. They don't. She has to pay $700 a prescription, not for something she wants, for something she needs. How fair is that when these pharmaceutical companies are making billions of dollars in profits? You know, on the topic of conversion to EV, we stand at the precipice of a significant shift towards electric vehicles. It's crucial to acknowledge the transformative potential they bring to our transportation landscape. However, in our eagerness to embrace this change, we must exercise prudence and consider the readiness of our infrastructure. The transition to electric vehicles is not merely about swapping traditional cars for their electric counterparts, it involves a comprehensive overhaul of infrastructure. And I just want to say, back home, Texas, my hometown, just south of Dallas, a city of about 65,000 people, we have a restaurant there with a charging station. And there may be one or two more in this town. I do know of one. Think about that: 65,000 people and five charging parts. Parts for electric vehicles, for EV. There's only five charging stations. How is that going to work with 65,000 people? It's not. We have to have the infrastructure in place to support this. And you have my pledge here. One, we will be converting to electronic vehicles. But secondly, the conversion will only happen when the infrastructure in this country is ready to support it. And that means power grids and support systems must be robust and widespread to truly facilitate a seamless EV experience for everyone. Rushing headlong into electric vehicle conversion without a well established infrastructure is akin to setting sail without a navigational map. We risk encountering challenges that could hinder the adoption process and leave us with unintended consequences. It's like having a powerful engine without the roads to drive on it. Imagine a scenario where we all embrace electric vehicles, but the charging infrastructure is inadequate. And I just pointed that out. It is inadequate. The result would be frustration, inconvenience, and a potential slowdown in the widespread adoption of cleaner transportation. Waiting patiently until the infrastructure is in place ensures that the benefits of EVs are maximized while minimizing the potential pitfalls. Our journey towards a sustainable future requires careful planning and strategic execution. Let us not be hasty in our pursuit, but rather deliberate in ensuring that our infrastructure is ready to support the electric revolution. By doing so, we pave the way for a smoother, more efficient transition that benefits not only us, but the generations to come. And we're really planning for the next generations. I've heard candidates talk about EV transition in 20 to 30 years. I'm thinking 50 years. It's going to take that long I believe, to get a viable infrastructure in place in this country to support this. Another topic that's big back home in Texas is our border. And on the issue of the borders, let me affirm that the United States welcomes people, but it must occur through the proper channels, not through unauthorized crossings. We will reestablish border control to ensure order and security. We must do that. A country has to have borders to exist as a country. We will reestablish our borders. We will regain control of our borders. And you think about the influx of people who come in our country. Almost at this time last year, I made a visit to El Paso to visit the International Bridge. And what I witnessed there on that day was hundreds of people during my visit, hundreds of people crossing the International Bridge the proper way. Why don't we do that instead of coming in mass across the Rio Grande River and other rivers unauthorized in the United States? My pastor back home in Texas, one of my pastors, is from Ghana. He didn't cross the Rio Grande Valley. He didn't cross the Rio Grande River unauthorized. He came in the United States the proper way and is on his way to citizenship in this country. Another crisis that is a result of the border situation is the fentanyl crisis unfolding within our nation. It's alarming in the conflux of factors that demands urgent attention. Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid known for its formidable potency, has a central prominence in every expanding narrative of the opioid epidemic. Its introduction into the illicit drug market has wrought havoc. There already has been dire consequences of widespread opioid misuse and the clandestine malfunctioning manufacturing and distribution of fentanyl, often mixed with other substances, has given rise to a perilous landscape where all small quantities can induce fatal overdoses. This crisis has proven to be resilient and adaptive, making it challenging for authorities to curb its impact effectively. This epidemic is not solely a law enforcement concern. It extends deep into public health, necessitating an approach. But law enforcement efforts must intensify to dismantle illicit drug networks responsible for the production and distribution of fentanyl. Simultaneously, healthcare systems must require bolstering to enhance addiction treatment, accessibility, and promote harm reduction strategies. Equipping communities with education and resources is paramount in fostering resilience and supporting those affected by the crisis. Addressing the fentanyl crisis mandates collaboration across various sectors, from government agencies and healthcare professionals to community organizations, comprehensive policies that combine targeted law enforcement actions with evidence-based healthcare interventions can serve as a linchpin in migrating the crisis's immediate and long-term repercussions. Moreover, public awareness campaigns are vital to dispel myths, reduce stigma, and empower individuals and communities to navigate the challenges posed by fentanyl. As we confront the fentanyl crisis, it's imperative to recognize its far-reaching implications and mobilize resources effectively through a unified and multifaceted approach. We can strive to stem the tide of this devastating epidemic, safeguarding communities and fostering a healthier, more resilient society. And think about it. Think about the small doses of fentanyl it takes to kill a person. There's enough fentanyl that comes across the United States almost on a daily basis that can kill everyone in this country. Everyone. It can wipe out an entire country. It is time for us to put this crisis behind us. But this only becomes effective when we reestablish border control. And on the issue of the borders, the Middle East has been marred by decades of conflict, and the Israeli Palestinian issue remains at the heart of this turmoil. I firmly believe that a just and equitable solution lies in the establishment of two independent states, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. The two-state solution is not just a diplomatic concept, it's a vision for a future where both Israelis and Palestinians can coexist, recognizing each other's right to self-determination. This solution is grounded in the principles of fairness, mutual respect, and the recognition of the legitimate aspirations of both peoples. It is essential to acknowledge the historical pain and suffering experienced by both Israelis and Palestinians. The two state solution provides a framework to address the legitimate concerns and rights of both parties, ensuring a path forward toward reconciliation and coexistence. This approach offers a realistic and viable way forward, promoting prosperity for the entire region. Supporting a two state solution does not mean taking sides. Rather, it is an endorsement of a just and comprehensive resolution that accommodates the rights, security, and dignity of both Israelis and Palestinians. It's a call for dialogue, diplomacy, and a commitment to finding common ground for the betterment of all involved. And we really can find a solution to this. You know, the events of October that happened in Israel were horrible. Innocent people murdered on a Saturday morning, women raped, just without cause. This has got to come to an end. This has got to come to an end. And while we firmly support our neighbors in Israel, we have to find a solution to this, and there's got to be an end to this violence in the Middle East before it spreads to other. It's already starting to do that, but before it spreads to more and more countries. You know, and on one other thing that's been a big issue lately, and that is women's rights. Basically, the right to get an abortion. And let me just say before I start talking about this that I personally, myself, in my heart, think it's wrong to terminate a life. But we live in a country where we have freedoms, and I believe that women have the right to dictate what goes on within their body and how and what to do about that. You know, and I believe in the sanctity of life, and I recognize the profound value of every individual. At the same time, I firmly believe in a woman's right to make choices about her own body and reproductive health. Why is it that we should have states mandating you have to have an abortion? Why are states in the business of mandating medical procedures? States should be in the business of governing their states, not mandating what a woman has done to her. You know, the issue of abortion rights is multifaceted, involving personal beliefs, ethical considerations, and legal frameworks. Supporting a woman's right to choose does not diminish the recognition of the inherent value of life. Rather, it acknowledges the complexities of individual circumstances and the autonomy that women deserve in making deeply personal decisions. It's crucial to approach this topic with empathy and understanding that each person's situation is unique. As a society, we must strive to create an environment where women have access to comprehensive reproductive health care education, and support is essential. It's essential to address the root causes that may have led individuals to consider abortion and work towards a society that values the well-being of all its members. You know what I'm saying is while I'm while I my heart tells me it's its own and terminated life, we need to think about the lives that we bring into this world, and we need to think about the lifelong commitment that you're making as a parent. You know, legislation and policy should be crafted with careful consideration in both the protection of life and the preservation of individual freedoms. Striking a balance between these values requires open dialogue, compassion, and a commitment to understanding the diverse perspectives that exist within our communities. And we just need to think about this really thoroughly. And like I said, I keep coming back to this point, but I want to say that a woman or anybody, for that fact, should have the right to choose what happens to their body. The government should not be interfering with that. Education reform stands as a pivotal cornerstone for our nation's restoration. Our classrooms should be sanctuaries of learning, not political battlegrounds. Education should pivot back to fundamentals, teaching history objectively to prevent the repeat of past mistakes. With a personal understanding of the challenges faced by educators, being married to an educator for almost 30 years, I recognize the need to increase teacher pay. While acknowledging it's a state level matter, I pledge to assist states in funding these raises without encroaching upon their autonomy. And what I want to say is this: this is not another Washington power grab. This is not telling you, oh, we're going to give you this money. The only thing, when we give these states this money under the Back to Basics plan, the only thing we're going to require is the funding we give you from the federal government is spent on teacher pay. That's the only requirement you will be given in this money. And we have to increase teacher pay. We need to really work on that. We need to make teacher pay a livable wage. Too many of our teachers are living at the poverty level. And restoring patriotism and reinforcing fundamentals like history and the ABCs is not just a campaign slogan, but an imperative. Reject the divisive influences of woke education. My education plan, named Back to Basics, aims to support teachers, provide quality education, and prepare students for the future by taking politics out of the classroom. And every day across this country of ours, every morning, first thing in the morning, as the sun rises in the east, moms and dads are bringing their most prized possessions to America's schools. They kiss them goodbye and they'll say, "I'll see you at 3:15." Hope when they come back at 3:15, they're educated more than they were at 7:30 that morning. In our schools across this country, the only thing we owe our students is to teach them the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s, the good, the bad, the ugly of history. And when I say that, we don't need to sanitize history. We don't need to clean history. We need to teach history. I'm not going to stand up here before you this afternoon and tell you that in over 200 years, almost 250 years in this country, that the United States has done everything perfect. Breaking news, it hasn't. But we owe our children, we need to tell them the mistakes we made so that they don't repeat them in the future. Respect for one another comes from the bedrock of a united nation. We've borne witness to violent division, families shattered and scattered by gun violence. We advocate for gun reform without infringing on rights and increase mental health support for those in need. And really, that's what I'm saying. We need to also increase mental health funding. We need to get help for those who need help. And I firmly believe if we work on that to get them the help they need, we will see our gun violence in our nation decrease. And also I think one thing that will bring down our gun violence in our country is just getting along with one another. This polarization, this attitude of I hate you because we disagree on something has got to come to an end. It's got to come to an end. You know, if we do this, if we go out and shake each other's hand and arm in arm work together to solve this nation's problems, there is nothing at all the United States can accomplish. The plan I unveiled here this afternoon is not merely a policy agenda. It's the opening chapter in our journey to restore the greatness of the United States. One of my favorite Texas artists is a guy by the name of Tom Lay. And he actually had one of his paintings in the Oval Office a few years ago. And it's a picture of the mountains of El Paso. And Tom writes about how him and his wife, Sarah, live on the east side of the mountain. For it's on the east side of the mountain that they get to see the sunrise and get to see the sunrise of the day ahead, not the sunset of the day that is past. My fellow Americans, I believe the United States lives on the east side of the mountain, and I firmly believe our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. Ladies and gentlemen, may God bless you. May God bless our military, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you all very much. Thank you.